Have you ever wondered if there might be a deeper secret behind Coco? Today we're diving into a fascinating theory that suggests Ernesto de la Cruz, the iconic villain of the story, might have harbored secret feelings for Imelda, Hector's wife. After all, Ernesto's films, and the subtle interactions between him and Imelda, leave room for intriguing speculation. Could it be that the villain we know actually loved Imelda? Or was his facade of celebrity and ambition blinding him to true love? Get ready to uncover a hidden layer of the narrative as we explore whether love and betrayal between these characters could have intertwined in a surprising way. Ernesto de la Cruz was the star that shone brightly on the musical stage of Coco. Considered a music icon, his fame transcended time, winning hearts not only in life but also after his death. His fans always adored him, evidenced by the massive offerings left in his honor. The adoration was such that even though he wasn't from Miguel Rivera's generation, Miguel was mesmerized by de la Cruz's legacy. However, beneath all this adoration and glamour lies a dark truth. While Ernesto de la Cruz was venerated as a musical hero, the truth is that he was the true villain of the story. His path to fame was paved with the most cruel betrayal and violence. To achieve his greatest dream, being the most famous singer in the world, he committed a terrible act. He poisoned his best friend, Hector. This betrayal was not just a quest for success, but a demonstration of how far he was willing to go to achieve his goals, even if it meant destroying the life of someone he considered a friend. Here comes an intriguing theory that adds an extra layer of complexity to the story. Ernesto's motivation for committing this horrendous act may not have been just the greed for fame, but something even deeper and more personal. The perspective of the story we know is told by the protagonist, Miguel. He reveals the details of Ernesto's actions directly, but omits a crucial part: the presence of a friend alongside his great-great-grandfather Hector. This friend was none other than Ernesto de la Cruz. When Miguel discovers that Hector and Ernesto were friends, the revelation shocks him deeply. To him, Ernesto was the heroic relative who had been celebrated for generations, and the idea that he had a partner in Hector's journey was something he hadn't considered. Miguel believed Hector's adventure was a solitary journey in pursuit of his dream, without the company of someone who had actually become a central figure in the tragedy. Miguel's surprise at discovering the truth about Hector and Ernesto's relationship also reveals an unconscious defense of Ernesto. He initially resists the accusations made by Hector, unable to see his idol in a darker light. The revelation not only challenges Miguel's view of Ernesto, but also forces him to confront the harsh reality that the man he admired was, in fact, the villain of his family's story. When the revelation that Ernesto de la Cruz had murdered Hector is made to Imelda, her reaction is not one of surprise at discovering that they knew each other. In fact, she was already aware that Ernesto and Hector were close friends, a bond that extended far beyond the journey through music. What truly shocks her is the brutal motive behind her husband's death, the betrayal and poison Ernesto used to achieve his own goals. For Imelda, the fact that Ernesto and Hector were friends was not news. When Hector left home to pursue his musical dream, Imelda was fully aware that he was accompanied by his best friend. Their friendship was a constant in their lives, and it was part of the family's everyday reality. What devastated her was the revelation that Hector's close friend was responsible for his death, not just the death of a traveling companion, but a calculated and cruel betrayal. It's interesting to note that, despite her love for music and her husband, Imelda chose not to join them on their journey. She had a deep connection with Hector and with music, but her love for her family, for her daughter, Coco, and for the everyday life she maintained was even greater. Imelda made the choice to stay and care for her daughter, believing that Hector would return after fulfilling his dream. Her decision not to join them was not a matter of disinterest, but rather a demonstration of sacrifice and trust in the friendship Hector had with Ernesto. Imelda knew that Hector was not alone and therefore did not feel the need to accompany him. The two friends were close, and she had full confidence that Ernesto's company was enough to ensure Hector's safety and success. Imelda's absence was a conscious choice, motivated by the desire to maintain family stability while Hector pursued his dreams. Time passed and Imelda continued her life, keeping up with the routine and caring for Coco, hoping that Hector would return. However, the prolonged absence and lack of news began to weigh on her. In a time when letters were the primary form of communication, the inability to receive any correspondence about Hector's whereabouts may have led Imelda to believe that he had abandoned the family. When Imelda finally reached the world of the dead, she was confronted with rumors and gossip about the events that occurred after Hector's departure. The pain and resentment were heightened by the lack of direct explanations from Hector himself. The absence of Ernesto as a communication intermediary left Imelda without clear answers, fueling her belief that Hector had abandoned her. It's possible that Imelda only discovered the truth about Hector's death a long time later, perhaps only when she herself arrived in the afterlife. The lack of contact with Ernesto and the absence of direct explanations contributed to the idea that Hector had left the family without saying goodbye. When she finally met Hector in the world of the dead, her reaction upon discovering the truth about Ernesto's betrayal was marked by a mix of pain and disillusionment, highlighting how much she had suffered from the loss and betrayal. A particularly revealing moment is the scene where the Rivera family comes together to recover Hector's photo, a symbol of the search for truth and memory. But it is in the meeting between Imelda and Ernesto in the backstage hallway that the theory really starts to make sense. When Imelda bumps into Ernesto and he asks if they know each other, showing a familiarity, the scene carries significant emotional weight. Ernesto expresses surprise at recognizing Imelda, which can be explained by the peculiar condition of the world of the dead, where everyone has a skeletal appearance and identity is much harder to discern. Even with distinct features, the lack of flesh and the appearance of bones make recognition more complicated, as evidenced by Hector himself, who disguises his identity by imitating Frida. As the fact that Ernesto does not immediately recognize Imelda is understandable, given the environment makes identities less clear. However, the tension of the scene cannot be ignored. Many fans noticed a charged atmosphere when Imelda, upon bumping into him and introducing herself firmly, seems to be provoking Ernesto. His reaction and words suggest an unresolved past relationship, especially when she asserts for the first time that Hector is the love of her life. As the atmosphere becomes even more palpable when Imelda takes the stage and starts singing, there is an undeniable chemistry between her and Ernesto, a dynamic that goes beyond the public performance. The way Ernesto leads the performance suggests a pre-existing knowledge and connection with Imelda. The scene suggests that, although the moment was a facade for the public, it was not the first time they danced together. As the choice of the song Imelda sings is also significant, when improvising, it's natural for her to choose a song with sentimental value, possibly one she shared with both Hector and Ernesto. This detail reinforces the idea that there was a shared history between them, a bond that survived through the years and even death itself. As when Miguel watches one of Ernesto's movies on TV and sees him playing the guitar, a subtle yet revealing detail is the way the films seem to reflect Ernesto's own experiences. These movies, filled with dramatic scenes and dialogues, could actually be a fictional representation of Ernesto's real-life events. In one of the films, Ernesto sings and dances with a woman, and a significant line is spoken. "When everything goes wrong, I play my guitar. The rest of the world may follow rules, but I follow my heart." After this statement, he kisses the woman, and the scene shifts to a field where he plays a serenade and asks, "Have you ever tried closing your eyes and feeling the music in your heart?" These words, in a cinematic context, can be interpreted as an echo of his true intentions and feelings. If this scene really happened, if Ernesto said these words to Imelda, or even if he observed Hector doing something similar for his beloved, the connection to reality is undeniable. Another relevant scene in the film features a woman saying, "My father will never give his permission." Ernesto responds with a powerful phrase, "I'm tired of asking for permission. When the moment comes, you can't let it pass. You need to seize it." This dialogue suggests that Ernesto may have faced Imelda's father's refusal to give his blessing for marriage, which would have been an obstacle to their relationship. As the big question that arises is, why didn't Ernesto seek out Imelda after killing Hector? The answer may be rooted in Ernesto's selfish and greedy nature. After committing the murder, Ernesto probably knew that returning to Imelda and revealing his betrayal could have devastating consequences. He understood that Hector wished to return to his family, and Ernesto's envy, both for the lack of recognition for his own compositions and for the fact that Hector had the woman he desired, may have further fueled his decision not to seek out Imelda. Ernesto's ego was so great that the love he had for Imelda was not enough to make him reconsider his actions. The idea of returning and facing the guilt of having killed his best friend and abandoned the woman he loved was overshadowed by his ambition to maintain his musical career and public facade. He knew that Imelda could blame him, and even though he might have had feelings for her, his fear of losing his fame and reputation outweighed any consideration of making amends. As the theory that Ernesto de la Cruz secretly loved Imelda adds a fascinating and emotional dimension to the narrative of Coco. It reveals how love, betrayal, and ambition intertwine in a story that is both rich in music and drama. Ernesto's actions may have been driven by a mix of personal ambition and unspoken feelings for Imelda, making his character even more complex. It also highlights how certain hidden truths, when uncovered, can dramatically shift our understanding of beloved characters and their motivations. What do you think? Could Ernesto's love for Imelda have been a factor in his tragic actions, or was it simply overshadowed by his quest for fame? Share your thoughts and let's continue exploring the hidden depths of Coco.
I'll leave one video on the final screen so you can get to know my content here and then see you in the next video.